Is the Korean bar video real? Gwangju's in hot water for forging government signatures. And we take a trip to Gyeongju. All this and more. The QiRanger Podcast starts now. Greetings and salutations, my excellent friends. I hope you are having an absolutely fantastic day. It is Sunday, meaning it is time once more for the QiRanger Podcast. Hello, my name is Steve Miller, the internet's QiRanger, and your host for this weekly show. Now, if you're joining me on YouTube, hello. Nice to see you. This is the new video version of the podcast. If you're downloading the MP3 from QiRanger.com or from iTunes or from your favorite Audible source, thank you so much for joining me this week. As always, we have a lot of information to cover and we're going to have a lot of fun. Now, before we get into the first segment, let me just say that over the next few weeks, I will be rolling out slowly the new series for the fall, and I will be posting over on QiRanger.com a complete list of the fall schedule that will be rolling out slowly in the month of August, a little bit more in September, and then the full season begins in October into the fall throughout the first portion of, I shouldn't say the first portion, the end of the year, moving into the January holiday vacation season for myself. And I'm really excited about that. Now, one of the reasons why we're doing the video podcast once more is because I have some new equipment here in the office that you can't see, but I will be changing things a little bit as more equipment comes in to make it easier for me to film this hour-long program, or more or less an hour-long program, and then to put it up a little bit more easily for me so we get it out there right on the time deadline that I've imposed for myself. So anyway, thank you so much for joining me. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with the news. Yes, the news this week is, I just gotta say, there's a lot of stories that came out this week that I had to cover, and a number of them didn't make it into the podcast. And if you aren't subscribed to my Twitter feed or on Facebook with me, make sure you sign up and follow me on Twitter, follow me on Facebook, because I do post a lot of stories about East Asia, about Korea throughout the week to those sources. And I kind of save the ones that I want to talk about more here at length on the podcast. So the first story has been one that has been developing for the last few weeks, about 2 weeks in general, and that's concerning this viral video that came out about these two Westerners, presumably American, that were assaulting a woman in a Korean bar. Now, the way that the video unraveled was it was posted online, picked up, went viral. And it was about these two individuals who were hitting on a drunk Korean woman and then verbally assaulting her because she had disfigured teeth. Now, people were outraged. They were calling for a manhunt to find out who these individuals were and to ultimately kick them out of Korea. Then one of the men that was in the video said, hey, it was fake, and reached out to a few reporters, both here in Korea and overseas, and also to a few power bloggers here in Korea, and said, look, it was part of a film that I was paid to do, and that it's all staged, everyone was on good terms, here's the name of the director, blah, blah, blah. And time went by, and a lot of questions were asked. It's like, if this was faked, where's the extra footage? Where are the multiple takes? Who's the director? Where's the script? What was the intended purpose of this film? And finally, it came out just recently that indeed it does appear to have been staged. One of the actors in it was able to provide multiple takes of the same scene. And I gotta say, I was pretty much convinced that it was authentic because the acting on it was just spot on. It is unfortunately what I have seen in bars many times during my time here in Korea, and it's some of the behavior that really is offensive to a number of people, not just Koreans, but to expats alike. So it does appear that the viral video is staged. It was part of some kind of horror flick that the director wanted to submit at one point. The video was actually shot a few years ago, and no one, quote unquote, knows how quite it was leaked and posted online. So thankfully, that was a fake video, and we can put that incident behind us. I will say that to the actors, the men and women in that scene, you need to pursue a career in acting because you had me. You had me. I thought it was a legit thing, and I think you have a brilliant career in film or stage. Now, the second big story, and this is something I posted a while back on QiRanger.com, is the whole business around Gwangju winning the 2019 Fina World Championship Aquatics event. Now, this series of events just boggles my mind as to how it happened. Now, the Ministry of Sports, Culture, and Tourism said on July 19th that it plans to ask prosecutors for a criminal investigation on Gwangju City Mayor Kang Un-tae for allegedly fabricating events to win the right to host the 2019 World Swimming Championships. Now, quote, when the Fina inspection team visited Korea this past April, we reviewed the documents submitted by Gwangju in October of 2012, and it turned out that the two signatures on the document were forged, and this is coming from an MCST official. And then subsequently, they found out that the letter to Fina included the signatures of former Prime Minister Kim Hwang-sik and Culture Minister Choi Kwang-sik. Now, these two signatures were forged and then replaced. Now, since the story has come out, there has been a lot of finger pointing back and forth as to who exactly did what and how exactly it happened. The latest story was that the city asked for funding support from MCST, and MCST was going to go with 5.5 billion won. Then the city submitted the official document that they were going to get 100 billion won funding from the central government, and that's where the forged signatures come in. It does appear that the central government, the MCST, did support the event, but not just to that level. Now, since then, they are still formulating an investigation to see exactly what happened. The MCST did know about it, and they opted, which I thought was stupid, was to separate the events. Go ahead and still try and get the 2019 event, and we'll investigate it later. To me, it should have been done at the same time. Now, the Gwangju mayor right now is pointing the finger at a Ms. Han, saying that she was ultimately responsible for getting the signatures on the documents that were submitted to Fina. She has come out and said that, yes, I did that, but it's because the PR company said to do it. Essentially, do it now, ask for forgiveness later, which I think is ridiculous in and of itself. That is a horrible way to do it. That is just wrong. And anyway, I think this amounts to cheating the system. I think this is wrong. I think Fina, who is now asking the tough questions as to what exactly happened, has the right to pull funding and, not pull funding, but pull the event from Korea, which I think they should do. This is a total breach of trust between Korea and Fina. MCST has now said they aren't going to fund the event at all, so now the city may not even have the funds to actually do this. And I think a lot of this, the reason why we have this particular incident happening is because, if you remember from last week's podcast, South Korea came out as one of the most corrupt business countries, places to do business in Asia. And as we see so many times in private businesses, it does ultimately extend into the public sector with government officials. So we'll see what happens with the Fina championships down in Gwangju. Now, in also some Korean news, the military is going to do away with the celebrity units, the stars that have to serve in the military for their mandatory military service. And I think this is a good thing. I am not one for preferential treatment. And I really believe, as we've seen in these past 2 years with Rain especially, when stars go into the military to perform their required service here in Korea, a lot of times they're given preferential treatment. They're not given the same duties as Joe, Jim, off the street who are doing their 2 years in the military here in Korea. And I think that builds a lot of mistrust between the individuals, and I think it causes a lot of problems. So finally, they're going to get away, do away with that system. And I think that is the good thing to do. Korea is also going to try and get more visitors. They are trying to get more Japanese individuals to visit Korea, since we have a weak yen. So Seoul is rolling out some tourist cops and a hotel tax refund scheme. Now, according to the plans announced by the government, foreign tourists will be entitled to a 10% VAT refund on hotel bills at the airport or port of entry early next year. And the scheme will run for 1 year in a pilot program. Now, there will also be an increase in multiple re-entry visas for Chinese nationals to promote tourism from China to Korea. And the government will also set up a 100-person tourist police under the Seoul Metropolitan Police Agency in October of 2013 and expand it to Busan and Incheon later this year to try and crack down on overcharging illegal taxis and unlicensed tour guides. Now, I think that is a good idea, since you do have a lot of reports of overcharging, of taxi cabs specifically ripping off individuals. That's one of the reasons why the Seoul Metropolitan government came out with the taxi guide, which you can download, and it gives really explicit information on how to get a cab and what the rates really should be. So hopefully that will boost some tourism and give people another reason to come to Korea, which really is often overlooked, in my opinion, as a tourist destination. Also, in the Korea's safer roads, or at least the attempt to make them safer, are on the horizon. Beginning in 2015, all passengers will be required to wear seatbelts at all times. Now, the government will seek to require mandatory use of seatbelts while expanding the number of unmanned traffic enforcement cameras under a goal of cutting the number of traffic accident fatalities by 30%. Now, I think that is a very, very good goal. Korea has a very high accident rate on the highways, has a very high fatality rate. But seriously, if you're so interested in eliminating traffic fatalities, and one of the ways you're going to do that is by imposing mandatory seatbelt coverage or seatbelt use, why are you waiting till 2015? That's something that can be done next month. It's something that can be done at the start of 2014. There's no reason for essentially to delay this a year and a half. Clicking a seatbelt, no problem. That doesn't require any new infrastructure to put that in place. Simply pass the law, make it start effectively whatever date, and then go. That is, delaying this shows me specifically that the idea of a safer road is very important for transportation officials, but they just really aren't keen on doing what is necessary to be serious about it. Putting traffic cameras in place, that's a very passive mean, and yes, that does take time to get the funding, to get the cameras, to install them. I could see that being put in place 2015. But delaying the seatbelt? No, that doesn't make any sense. In some North Korean news, as you will recall, a North Korean boat was seized in Panama, and the crew has been charged with illegally transporting undeclared military equipment, and they could serve up to 6 years in prison. Now, what was interesting about this was you found missile fragments, and you found 2 MiGs on the boat, which I thought was amazing that you would find MiGs with fuel in them on the boat. That's just mind-boggling. But it shouldn't really surprise anyone because, as I've mentioned several times before, North Korea has been doing fairly well at trading arms. And it looks like this may have been one of the ways they are getting arms from outside nations. So you have, in this case, sugar being the cover that the goods were being smuggled with. So perhaps this is how things have happened in the past. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with the crew as the story develops. South Korea is taking a belated yet necessary step to train more cybersecurity efforts, and this is in response to a lot of hacking that has taken place this year, and they're going to be working in conjunction with the United States to develop some more cybersecurity. But what I found was interesting in a pair of articles was that North Korea, on average, produces about 300 cyber attackers per year. 300 per year. That shows me that they are very serious about carrying on digital warfare. However, South Korea only has about 30 or 40 individuals in place to defend the nation, meaning that South Korea is grossly overmatched by North Korea when it comes to cyber terrorism, cyber warfare. And that needs to change. It's one of the reasons why South Korea is trying to train 5,000 individuals over the next few years to really shore up their defenses, and it's something that needs to happen. In Kaesong news, well, there really is none. And after a series of talks, they've pretty much fallen flat on their face. Nothing's going to happen. North Korea wants resumption of all business to take place right now, while South Korea is holding out for reassurances that a shutdown, like the one we're experiencing now, will not happen in the future. Now, to me, this whole conversation about Kaesong is a waste of time. North Korea, even if they agree to say, oh, yes, we'll put some assurances in place, doesn't mean that they will abide by that. The complex is in North Korea. So there is absolutely no way for South Korea to enforce any aspect of any deal. It's time for South Korea to walk away. It's time for the businesses to walk away. South Korea was trying to woo foreign companies to move into Kaesong. The first one to say no was IKEA. And that shows a brilliant move on IKEA. There is no way in hell I would ever do business in Kaesong. As long as the complex is in North Korea and access to the plant is controlled by North Korea, there's just no point in doing business there. North Korea has come out and said that if work doesn't resume, they may turn it into a military complex. And that is the one thing that has a lot of people concerned, that if it is converted to a military complex, they could house a lot of equipment, a lot of individuals very close to the South Korean border, right next to the DMZ. And that would not be a good thing. And also in North Korea, construction appears to have ended at a North Korean missile complex. One of the things that escalated all the tension this year was North Korea launching missiles and conducting their nuclear tests. They were believed to have been building a new missile ready for testing, a long-range missile, but all work seems to have halted there. So who knows what is actually going to happen with North Korea. It could be that we will be seeing a slight reduction in their rhetoric. Right now they're conducting the mass games, the Odom festival there in North Korea. So probably after the games, we'll see some activity, but nothing so far. And I think that if they do anything, I think it's going to be more Kaesong related rather than missile related. I think they can push more buttons with South Korea and the world if they focus on Kaesong. And I probably will see that we probably will see, now that the talks have fallen flat, that they will probably move some military equipment into the Kaesong area. In East Asian news, there was a very horrific earthquake in China, and the U.S. Geological Survey said it measured about 5.6 in the Dingxi area in Gansu province, and after that there were several aftershocks. About 5,700 houses collapsed during the quakes, and 73,000 homes were severely damaged. At the last report I saw, more than 31,000 people have been relocated, and my thoughts and sympathies certainly do go out to the families who were affected by this. This is a horrible event that it's just one of the things. I cannot imagine what it would be like to wake up and find everything shaking so much, and to see your town, to see your homes, to see your schools just collapsing. No, not worth it. Japan has sent a letter to the United Kingdom asking it to reconsider a possible referendum in the future on whether or not it will remain part of the European Union. Now, Japan has invested heavily in the United Kingdom in hopes that by doing business with the UK, they will get a foothold into doing business in the European Union. If the UK leaves the EU, then that may also inhibit or hamper some of the business dealings with Japan doing business with companies in the EU. I thought it was very interesting. We have Conservative MP Julian Brazier making this statement after Japan's request. It's kind of the Japanese to give us guidance on our national destiny, but at a time when the Eurozone is in a crisis unseen for nearly a century, I'm not sure they are well qualified to see the way forward for Britain. In deciding on our national interest, we may have to disappoint their expectations. And finally, in East Asian news, British drug maker GlaxoSmithKline is being faced with several bribery allegations in China. Now, the company has acknowledged that several of its executives may have violated the country's laws, and the company has come out and say we have a zero tolerance for that. So, as I said, more corruption in business, squeaky wheels, I guess, need to get a little grease to move things along. And it's not unique to Korea, it's not unique to the United States, happens pretty much everywhere, and that is unfortunate. In some other news topics around the world, Japan now has the fastest internet, but Japan and South Korea lead the pack with fiber optic penetration, with over 60% of the market having fiber optics. So fast internet is always good, and it's one of the things I am very, very pleased about. Hungary was ranked just below the average in terms of penetration, and penetration rates in remaining countries, which included the US, the UK, France, and Germany, were all under 10%. Now, I find that odd on a number of different reasons. Now, the United States is quite big in comparison to some other countries, so the case could be made that the country is just really, really big, and that's why you don't have the penetration of fiber optics. But then when you compare that with, say, the UK, which is fairly small in comparison to the US, I also find it strange that the penetration rate was under 10%. So hopefully those countries will be able to put in the correct infrastructure to increase fiber optic penetration and get more net out there, get the higher speeds out there. That is vital in this day and age, not only for home businesses, but for just transactions in general. So much of what we do today requires broadband access. You gotta get in there, Rick Perry did manage to pull in his Republican supporters and sign into law the very restrictive anti-abortion law in Texas that we saw a few weeks ago, where you had the filibuster at the end of the first special session that killed it. However, he went around and really, I think, I don't want to say abused his power, but I think it's a shame that simply because of him not being able to pass that during a special session, called another one right off the bat and put that on the docket first, just because Republicans versus Democrat in Texas, they had the votes. And it was simply a measure of partisan politics, putting it through, restricting the rights of women in Texas. And I think that's one of the things that I really dislike about the United States governmental process at this point, is that everything so far, everything right now is so divided, either on the Democratic side or on the Republican side. And it really just matters who has the votes. If you have the votes, if you have the majority of the seats, you'll get your agenda passed. And it doesn't matter if it's right or wrong. It's just, if I'm a Democrat and I want this passed and I have the majority of votes, it'll get passed. Same for Republicans, I think. Now, there are a few issues, and we saw that with the latest NSA vote in Congress. It was pretty close, and a lot of people, quote unquote, jumping aisles, or what some analysts were saying, doing the right thing. But for a large majority of the items that go through the United States right now, it's straight along party lines, and I think that is a shame. There was one congressman who opted not to run for re-election because he was fed up. He said that there was no more middle ground, that essentially it was just a lost cause. Everything now was based on party lines, and that individuals could no longer vote the way they needed to vote to do the right thing. And I think that's a huge, huge problem. Finally, the National Institute of Health has decided to stop using chimpanzees in animal research, and that is also some very good news. NIH Director Dr. Francis Collins said that chimpanzees deserve special respect, and I absolutely agree with that. That is all the news for this week. To keep up with breaking news and other important issues, make sure you surf on over to QiRanger.com. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, as well as my YouTube channels. I post a lot of information about what is going on in East Asia, especially as new events take place. Ladies and gentlemen, it's now time for QiRanger RTW Travel Talk Around the World. This week we are talking about Gyeongju in South Korea on a segment that originally aired on TBS EFM 101.3 in Seoul. Just take me away. Yes, take me away. It is Monday morning, and I am so glad to be with you here today. This week, we're going to one of my favorite places in Korea, and that is Gyeongju. Now, it is a coastal city in the far southeastern corner of North Gyeongsang Province in South Korea, and it is actually the second largest city by area in the province after the city of Andong. Now, it is fairly small in comparison. It's only about 511 square miles, or 1,324 square kilometers, and the population hovers around 270,000 individuals. But I gotta tell you, there is just something very, very special about this small city. It lies about 55 kilometers east of Daegu and is about, I would say 370 kilometers southeast of Seoul, which is about 230 miles. Now, I love this place so much because I am one who really loves connecting with history, loves connecting with culture. And Gyeongju was the capital of the Shilla kingdom. And that actually ruled about 2/3 of the peninsula in the 7th and 9th centuries. And in the city and around the city, there are several archaeological sites, tons and tons of cultural properties, and that is one of the reasons that the city is often referred to as the museum without walls. Now, getting there is actually also very easy as well. You can drive down there, you can take a bus, and taking the bus actually is quite nice because virtually all the bus terminals here in the Seoul area do have buses going to Gyeongju. And they actually have two different bus terminals there. They have an intercity bus terminal and an express bus terminal. So just be a little bit aware of which bus terminal you're going to when you make your bus reservations. But you can actually also take the train. And that is either going to be a slow option or a very fast option. Now, I say that because if you're taking the slower class trains, typically you need to go down to Dongdaegu Station and then transfer to another train that will actually take you to Gyeongju Station. However, just outside of Gyeongju itself is the new Gyeongju Station, and that is actually serviced by the KTX. So you can get from Seoul to Gyeongju in about 2 hours, but then you need to take about a 20-minute bus ride into the city proper. Now, around town, you can travel by bus. It's the same rate here, and if you top off your T-Money card before you go down there, you can actually use that when you travel around. Staying in the city is also really nice because there are tons and tons of hostels, but also a lot of motels in and around the bus terminal and train station area. So you don't have to worry about finding a great place to stay there. But if you're going down there, you want to do something, but more importantly, you want to eat. And Gyeongju is actually known for a few different things. Now, one of the things I love is, of course, a good meal. And one of the representative meals in Gyeongju is what's called sambap, or basically a very deluxe version of a lettuce wrap. So sam means wrap and bap is rice. So what happens is you go to a restaurant and they bring out an enormous number of side dishes and then different kinds of roughage that you can actually wrap things up with. So you have your rice, you put a little rice in the lettuce leaf, and then you can add sides, you can add your beef. We went there and had a delicious, delicious beef that was marinated in some fantastic sauces, and the number of side dishes just really made this a fantastic experience. Another representative dish from the area is hwangnampang, or it's a little, I guess, pastry-type bread that is filled with red bean. You'll see it everywhere when you go down there, and it is something to behold. It's a lot different than the red bean type snacks that we have up here in Seoul. So make sure you try that when you go down there. Well, believe it or not, that is all the time I have today. I'll be back tomorrow with more. Have a great day. Yes, it's Tuesday, a terrific Tuesday. And when you go down to Gyeongju, there is probably one site that is more famous than anything else. And that is, of course, the Bogok Temple, or Bogoksa, and its associated artificial shrine, the Sokgoram Grotto. Now, these are just amazing. And if you've been to temples in and around Seoul, maybe down in Busan, you think you have seen it all. But let me tell you, you have not. This is a magnificent sight. Many call Bogoksa the representative relic of Gyeongju, and it was designated a World Cultural Asset by UNESCO back in 1995. And it's mainly because of the artistic touches of the stone masonry and relics that are there, and it's known throughout Korea. In fact, if you ask a lot of school-aged children, have they been to Gyeongju, they'll always say, oh yes, I've been to Bogoksa. So what is it about this temple that makes it so special? Well, it was built back in 528 during the Shilla Dynasty, and it's gone through a number of different names over the years, but when you get there, you actually can feel the spiritual energy flowing through the grounds. And what makes it different is the way that it is
harmonious with nature. Most temples in Korea are built on mountains and have a close relationship with nature, but there's just something extra special about this one. You arrive at the parking lot, either by car or by bus, and then you start walking up towards the temple grounds. And everywhere around you is just green at this time of year. It is so lush. It is so beautiful. But also there are a lot of water features along the way, small little waterfalls, some ponds, there's some fish in the ponds, and you'll often find people feeding the fish, taking pictures, having a little rest by the area. It is a perfect place to just sit back and relax. And then as you extend your walk, getting closer to the actual grounds, then you are just blown away by the architecture. And what's different about this temple is that a lot of the temples here in the Seoul area have been painted time and time again. But a lot of the areas in Pagodas are not laden with fresh paint. You can see the passage of time. You can see cracks in the wood. And it just makes it a little bit more real. Now, there are a couple of unique aspects of the temple, and these specifically are the stone pagodas. Now, most temples in Korea have one stone pagoda, but Pagodas actually has two in the main courtyard, an eastern one and a western one, and they measure between 8 and 10 meters tall, and they are very unique, and they just really are special. However, at this particular juncture, the Pagoda, which is one of the two that are there, that is actually being restored right now because it has, suffered from the passage of time. So make sure you check out this temple. It is really cool. Now, you have an option when visiting the Sokgoram Grotto, the artificial shrine inside a mountain just up the way. You can hike up there via a trail that's only 2.2 kilometers long, or if you go back down to the parking lot, you can take bus number 12 all the way up to the top. However, please be aware that the last bus down from the grotto is at 6:20 p.m. So if you don't make it back that way, you're actually going to have to find a cab or walk all the way down to the temple and then take one of these city buses back into town. I gotta say, we went there for Buddha's birthday one year, and there were tons and tons of people there, but the festive environment really made it special. They had a little concert there. It was awesome. So if you're looking to experience a little bit more about Buddhist culture here in Korea, make sure you check out these sites. You won't regret it. Well, that's all the time I have today. I'll be back tomorrow. Have a great day. Yes, Thursday. Thursday means it's almost Friday. When Friday gets here, we can actually go out on a grand adventure. So this week we are talking about Gyeongju, the museum without walls. And one of the things that I guess really showcases that philosophy is, of course, the royal tombs of the Shilla dynasty. You absolutely cannot physically go to Gyeongju and not see these tombs. So if you've been to any of the Joseon era tombs here in Seoul, you know that they're typically on the mountain. The burial mounds are fairly large, and they look exquisite. You have statues, different gates. But if you go down to Gyeongju and you go to the Daereungwon tomb complex, you will be completely surprised. It is something completely different. And you don't even have to go to the tomb complex to get an idea of what I'm talking about. These are massive mounds. And some of the mounds that we have seen in Gyeongju, I want to say, appear to be the size of a 5-story building. They are massive. They are so massive that over the years, trees have been sprouting up on the hillsides. And there's one that actually caught my wife and I totally by surprise. It's a giant, looked like an oak tree growing out of the top with gnarly roots at the bottom. It was completely surprising. So these are large ancient tombs of the kings and noblemen of the Shilla dynasty. And they can, as I said, be seen everywhere. And there's actually a few smaller ones that are actually crescent moon shaped. So unlike the tombs of the Joseon that are in specific areas, these are actually grouped together in various different kind of complex groups. And there was a huge excavation in the 1970s, and that's when they really started to go inside. And tell you what, you can actually go inside one of these tombs. Most of the tombs have been excavated, but you can't go inside. And you can tell the ones that have been excavated versus the ones that have not been, because in front of the burial mound, the giant burial mound, you'll actually see a little placard of who was buried there. So in the largest one that you can actually enter, the name is Cheongmacheong, they recovered over 11,000 different relics from inside. So you need to pay admission, and you can go inside the tomb. And if it's a busy weekend, maybe there will be a line. But you can go inside the tomb, and you'll see a beautiful, beautiful display case along the outside walls of the tomb. And this is inside, so along the inner outside wall, I should say, of the different relics that they found there. So some of the headpieces, some of the jewelry, some of the tools they found there. But the showstopper is this large central display where they have the actual area cleared away of where one person was actually buried there. And that is amazing, because you get an idea of how small an individual is versus the size of the tomb. Now, above and beyond all this, the entire complex is a great park, and you're able to sit there and relax with lots of people. It's a great place to go out and just have a great time. So if you're in Gyeongju, make sure you don't miss this iconic experience. You won't regret it. That's all I have today. I will be back tomorrow with one more day of Gyeongju. Yes, Friday, the glorious end of the work week and the start of the weekend. So this week we have been talking about Gyeongju, and I have saved some of the most amazing things for last, especially if you just want to walk around town and take in the history of the city. So the first thing I'd like to share with you today is probably one of the more interesting places that you can go inside the city proper, and that is the Gyeongju National Museum. Now, this museum actually is quite large and has a number of exhibits outdoors. So if it's a beautiful sunshiny day, you can actually see a lot of the bells and a lot of the sculptures that are out. But if it's a rainy day, you actually can go inside. Now, what makes this museum special is that it really focuses on the relics and the history of the Shilla Dynasty, because Gyeongju was the capital of the Shilla Dynasty. So there are essentially 4 different exhibition halls, and that is also including the outdoor area. So you have the main hall, where you have different arts and crafts from the different time periods, from the early Shilla Dynasty all the way up to the end of it. Then you have the memorial hall, where they have over 600 artifacts that were donated for the museum. And then you have the archaeology hall, which has another series of artifacts. And one other place that you shouldn't miss is, of course, the Anapchi Pond Hall. Now, this is a little bit of a misnomer, because while pretty much everybody in Korea knows about Anapchi Pond, that is more of, as it was explained to me, a nickname of the pond. The actual pond name is Hwolji, and that can actually be seen inside the museum hall, because everywhere that it used to say Anapchi, they've actually almost whited out or covered up with tape, and they're putting it as Hwolji now. So over the next few years, I think all the references to Anapchi will be gone. Anyway, what is Anapchi Pond? What is Hwolji Pond? Well, that is a large pond that was associated with the palace structure in Gyeongju. And they actually excavated nearly 30,000 different relics from inside this pond. And a lot of them are on display here. They have a brilliant CGI representation of how they built almost like a dugout canoe for the pond, and they actually have the canoe on display there. And they also have some other fun things on display, including the 14-sided die of the Shilla Dynasty that was used as somewhat of a drinking game back in the day. So it's really, really cool. Now, since we're talking about a Napshi pond, Walji pond, you can actually go and visit the pond. And they have a few of the palace structures rebuilt. And going there in the day is nice. But if you really want to be blown away by some beautiful scenery, you need to go there at sunset and after sunset as they turn on the lights. Now, the pond itself is fairly unique because two sides of the pond are built with straight line features, but the other 2/3 of, or half of the pond has really rolling, curving shoreline, so you really can't see the entire thing at any one juncture. And then you're able to walk all the way around it and just have a great, beautiful, natural experience there. But one more thing before I go today, and that is Chumsung Day, and that is the ancestral, I guess, astronomical observatory in Gyeongju, and that dates way, way back. And they actually used this to determine the vernal equinox, the autumnal equinox, the winter solstice, the summer solstice. It is just really, really cool to see that. But my favorite thing to do when you go there is to take some trick art photography. So you can have a lot of fun with it and see what astronomy was like way back in the day. But unfortunately, that's all the time I have this week. I hope you enjoyed the discussion about Gyeongju. I'll be back next week with more. Hope you have a fantastic weekend, and I will talk to you on Monday.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, that will just about do it for this week's podcast. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed it. If you enjoyed it, I hope that you will also share the podcast with your friends, especially if they're interested in East Asian news or travel here in South Korea. You can also subscribe to the podcast over in iTunes. And if you have an iTunes account, I would appreciate you logging in and rating and commenting about the podcast. It's a way for the podcast to grow and eventually get featured. If you have any comments about the podcast, please shoot me a message. I love hearing your feedback. You can do so by sending me a message at podcast@QiRanger.com. So until next week, thank you very much for listening, for watching. Remember to be true to yourself and always be awesome.